Welcome back to another episode of The Heart of the Matter. Our topic for today is very interesting, especially in these times where there's a global economic downturn. In Nigeria, industries like oil and gas, telecoms, banking industries, they have laid off a lot of people. And this has worsened the unemployment rate, which was already bad. Now, the issue is not that there are no jobs. A main issue is that these people are actually unemployable. Our topic for today is the makeover from unemployable to employers. And we have with us Bunmi Otegbade and Shaina, Silva, who are doing amazing things to help people in this category. My name is Omilola Oshikoya. Stay tuned.
These things sometimes are psychology.
I think financial cost as one of the many reasons was a God experience. Wanted to find God, simply feeling like you're inspired. It is always so.
Tell us about the solution.
As one
People
of
with 18 to 35 years of age out of work.
Hey, I don't have the skill for this particular problem to solve this particular problem.
none of us talked about the bread side.
Welcome back. Our topic is the makeover. And we have with us Bunmi Otegbade and Shaina Silva. Bunmi and Shaina, thank you so much for coming on The Heart of the Matter.
Thank you for having us.
It's a pleasure to have you. Okay, so what is it? What do you do?
Well, we do makeovers.
Okay.
Not
Makeup.
When we get there, we'll let you know. But
Okay.
soon, it's a big market. But we essentially, primarily, we take people, young people, who are considered unemployable, and turn them into employers of labor.
Okay. Shaina?
Yes, so essentially, like Bunmi said, we have young people who may be coming in bare without any makeup on, and we help them see themselves differently and then take them through a pathway where they are transformed by the time they come through our programs.
So what drove you, Bunmi, into building potential in African entrepreneurs?
So I think for me, myself, growing up, I had, the right family support and so forth. But I think at some point, I lost my favorite person in the world, like I had said, my mother. I lost her to sickle cell, which you talked about on the last show. And that was a very difficult time for me. And in trying to come back from that, I found help. I found help. People who invested in me, took the time to train and develop.
Wow.
And within 18 months or so, I was at the top of the class. I'd become head boy in primary school, went on to be head boy in secondary school. It was a series of head boyness. So it was a lot of kind of work in a very short time.
How old were you when this happened?
She passed when I was 4.
Oh, wow.
And I think the transformation really kicked off around 6 or 8, it was between 8 and 9. And it tells you that, look, at any age, you can spend concentrated time with someone and turn them into something that people would have never dreamed that they could be.
Wow. Wow, that's deep.
Yeah.
So this, because you had sort of that kind of support, you decided that you also want to help other people?
Absolutely. I think it turned for me into a responsibility.
Okay.
That responsibility became a calling. That calling became full-time purpose. You cannot leave others to be underperforming. And if you think about Nigeria just as a country, Nigeria is perpetually underperforming, and that's why there's that burden. Africa is underperforming. And for me, took a good number of years, maybe almost 12 years, to finally home in on young people and focus my attention there. But I think in terms of underperformance, Africa's youth, that's our next oil. We don't recognize it. We don't recognize that it's underperforming. And we need to work at that group so that they become, quite like I was. And I think for me, it's been that, I had it, so now I have to not only build up in other people, but create institutions that do that as well.
Listen, can we talk about some of the stats? I mean, the topic is the makeover from unemployable to employers. Now, I think that's very profound because the the logical thing would be to go from unemployable to employed. But now you're telling them to employers rather. I think I made a mistake before, but employers. Now, how do you do that? Clearly, there's a mindset shift, right? And so what are the stats? How bad is it?
How bad is the situation?
Yes.
The situation is horrible. I mean, I
Okay.
don't even know how else to put it. I can throw out the stats, right, where youth unemployment is around 40%, but some of the stuff means nothing until you understand that if you want somebody to become employable, there have to be actually jobs out there that they can take. If the jobs are not being created, in fact, if people are being fired because the economy is shrinking and jobs are being thrown out, then we need something else entirely. Nigeria alone, I mean, we know it's 170 million people, almost 200 million. Unemployment is in the 30% range. Among young people alone, young people are almost 60% of this population, and their unemployment rate is near 50%. I don't think we understand what that means. It means that for the next 10 years, every time you drive up to a restaurant, today you see 5 young people who come and attack your car and ask you for money or try to help you park, right? It means that over the next maybe like 5 to 6 years, that number will double. So there will be almost maybe 10 or 15. After that, what starts to happen? If they choose to relieve you of your car, relieve you of your other possessions, where do we go from there, right? So it's a real massive problem for us.
So would you say, Shaina, is it because there are no jobs or they're just not skilled?
So I would say it's a combination of things happening at the same time. We are moving from the industrial era where most of the jobs were primarily hard labor. I don't know that Africa has necessarily come through that phase, but now things are digitizing and we don't have a body that is ready to take on those types of jobs. So even if they exist, the skill is not there. And at the same time, we're not creating the types of jobs, such as manufacturing, management level types of jobs that people can actually go into as well. So there's a double sort of side of the story.
And obviously you agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, Africa has kind of leapfrogged a lot of technology. So that industrial revolution we never had. So the building of manufacturing, the manufacturing sector, agriculture, a lot of those very labor-intensive sectors, we haven't really developed them. And I think part of what we're trying to do is say, let's not all get carried away by entertainment and digital age and all of this. We still need to build here locally. Before you can run e-commerce, you need manufacturing. And there are human beings that need to be in that manufacturing to get it going. So that's kind of where, things are for us.
Viewers, we're taking a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back to the Heart of the Matter. Shaina, you're not from over here. What inspired you to move to this part of the world?
Wow, that's a very big question. I guess I can start with my journey, which started around, I would say, 8 years old when I was living in Haiti, Port-au-Prince. Essentially, I grew up with my grandparents being very active in the community and really taking in young people and teaching them different skills to become self-sustainable. I wanted to be part of those young kids and the things that they were teaching them, but I was always stuck doing the administrative work, writing letters to people and just looking out and saying, hey, why don't I also get to be painting and doing photography and learning these things? So just being in that sort of spirit for several years sort of became a part of me. And so everything I did from there on was just a natural progression of being involved in the community and having an impact. The first major milestone for me in realizing that that was an important part of my life, because it didn't really crystallize throughout my whole life until 2010 when an earthquake hit Haiti. And a lot of lives were lost. And I was sitting in Washington, D.C. at the time working, and I saw the news and I saw all the things that were happening. And I said, oh my God, I haven't been back to that place in years.
She
and
lost a family friend.
who was down
she worked
there.
with the UN.
Yeah, so it was a very hard period, and a lot of things were happening at the same time, and I felt helpless. And I said, okay, so how do I get involved? Because I've always been involved throughout the years in doing things for the community. But then how do I do things from Washington, D.C.? They're not letting anybody fly out to Haiti to help. So I started talking to different people, like, what do we do? What do we do? I got involved with the embassy, and they were getting things together to send things to Haiti. But I asked, okay, so how are these things getting there since nobody is letting anything through? And they said, we don't know, but we need to prepare to send. So after several weeks of just feeling like the efforts were not useful, I told one of my friends, hey, do you want to just try to find a way to get to Haiti? And we started scheming on how to get down there. And we said, okay, let's land in the Dominican Republic, take a bus and cross the border. We started scheming and scheming. And while we were scheming, Spirit Airlines just launched the first flight to go down to Port-au-Prince. We bought our tickets and we left. And we said, okay, we don't know what to do from DC. We don't even know what to do when we get there. But when we get there, we'll find out. So we landed and we started just trying to figure out things. It was chaotic. NGOs everywhere trying to, give things out. We said, okay, we don't even know who to go to, what organization to join. Like, it was just a mess. So we said, let's just talk to the young people and see what they're doing. So we went into different neighborhoods and we found that they were actually very organized. Young people had come together and created groups by neighborhood, and they were using Facebook to communicate with one another on where to find resources. And we said, okay, how do we plug into that? This is happening and nobody's talking about it. CNN is busy talking about, Haiti being the third world country, poorest in the Western Hemisphere. But in the meantime, all of these things are happening that are positive, and they're not talking about that. How do we plug in? So talking to the young people, they said, what we need is reinforcement, because what we're doing is a very small scale thing. How can we make this a bigger thing? How do we plug in to other communities outside of this area? So thinking, we decided, okay, let's form an organization. We called it Haiti in Transition. And essentially we're teaching how to turn, these different organizations and groups into sustainable networks that were basically creating new things that were supporting the communities. So I did that for about 2 or 3 years. It crystallized over a period of time. And we started getting requests from schools and community centers to do the types of training we were doing in their spaces. But we were doing this part-time. We had full-time jobs. We were flying into Haiti 2 to 3 times a year to do this. And we realized, can we continue doing this or not? And we found that, no, we can't, because it wouldn't pay us.
How do you actually get them from unemployable to employers? Can we talk about the process?
Okay, so we do that in 2 ways.
Okay.
Generation Enterprise is a nonprofit based here in Lagos and in DC.
Okay.
And we have one mission: unemployed youth becoming employers. The first way we do it is by building companies that absorb unemployable young people, so-called unemployable young people, as they are, and then over a process gradually trains them to become managers, leaders, and ultimately entrepreneurs themselves. I'll give you an example. You're a young person on the street. Maybe you went to secondary school. You've been writing JAM for God knows how long. You can't make it in. Many people get older without ever writing that JAM, and then their life trajectory is very flat. What if there was a company, say a cleaning company, for example, where when you get, the cleaning company will employ you as you are. They train you on how to clean. But instead of just training you on how to clean, they train you on how to use Excel to manage the inventory of your cleaning supplies. They train you how to talk to customers, how many times to knock when you reach the customer's house. They train you on how to be on time and be professional, right? You have a 9 o'clock appointment, you show up at 8:50, right? And you call only 3 times up until 9:20 before you leave if the person is not available. Things like that. What if that
Like
company...
that, you called me 3 times as opposed to...
Not to, do you understand? As opposed to like 50
to back
times,
calls.
you know. And what if that company then trained them over the next 6 months to become a supervisor, to be able to supervise the new ones who are coming behind? What if after being a supervisor for 18 months, you go on to become a manager who can now own your own 10 people as a franchise owner, and now you're an entrepreneur? What if we can create that kind of change? That's the kind of company that we have built and that we are building. So when I say there's one way we're doing it, we actually do have a cleaning company that does exactly what I've just described. And when you've done it on cleaning, you can do it on plumbing, electrician work, literally anything, right? But it's about establishing a sustainable way of transforming people's lives. That's why we started that company and why we're building others like it.
I know there's another way you do that as well, because there are 2 ways, but then we'll discuss this once we come back from the break. Viewers, stay tuned. Welcome back. We're still talking about taking the unemployable and making them employers. Okay, so you were telling us one of the ways you do what you do. I know there are 2 ways. What's the second? Could you share with us?
So I can jump in for that. The second way is through what we launched this year, which is an Africa Startup Academy, where we take entrepreneurs who have brilliant ideas and are solving pretty big problems, and we pack in some skill. Because it's not enough to have an idea, right? You have to know how to execute. The idea is not very useful until you've executed. So what we've done is we started to recruit different types of entrepreneurs through our programs and basically take them through a training process where they're learning how to turn an idea into a viable business. And through that pathway, they start to pack in different things in the business that take their product to market, acquire customers, and then create jobs. So we're not only building in the entrepreneurs by bringing them as employees, but we're building those who have already really good ideas and have the skills, but are lacking the business acumen to take that to the next level.
So I understand you don't do this like the traditional theoretical classroom type setting. Can you tell us some of the ways?
So, you know, like she just mentioned, you can work with some unemployed young people, or the ones that are about to become unemployed. Maybe they're graduating from university and the likelihood that they will find a job is low. You can work with them and then try and make them, build the skill, do all of that. You can also work with more experienced entrepreneurs and teach them how to build the kind of businesses that we have built that will keep absorbing more and more of these young people so that, we can get there. Now, in terms of the way we do it, we try to make sure, Nigeria is not the toughest environment, but it is a tough environment. Entrepreneurs don't have a lot of time and don't have too much money to spend on sitting in some long class or going to business school that's going to cost like 30 million naira or anything like that. So what we've done is actually try to make these classes very simple, very execution focused, and very scale focused, and we've also made them very inexpensive.
Okay.
So if you had a question about, I've just started my business, I have a co-founder, I don't know how to share equity between the two of us, and now my family wants to invest in my business, I don't know how much equity to give them. Now some other investors want to put money in, how do I go about this? Say you had a 4-hour class between 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. where we evaluate 3 case studies of Nigerian businesses that have gone from almost nothing all the way to the top. And we evaluated them from an equity perspective. Wouldn't that be very helpful, right? Or you are just starting and you had paid someone to do a business plan for you, and most likely they wasted your money, which is what generally happens.
Exactly.
Or you wasted your own time. What if there's a class called 90-minute business plan, where you could come sit in that class and in 90 minutes, we show you how you should do your own business plan by yourself.
Is that really possible?
Absolutely.
90 minutes?
Absolutely.
Really?
In fact, we can get you 15 minutes if you want. It's very possible. It's it's about how do you think about it, you know. Another big piece that entrepreneurs constantly ask about is money. How do I get money to start my business? Even on Friday, I still had another conversation with another lady, and by the time we were done, actually when we started, I said, most likely what will happen is I will tell you that you don't need money. You will go away realizing you don't need money. And then after that, I will also tell you where you can find money when you are ready for it. And sure enough, by the time we were done with our 45-minute conversation, she was like, yeah, I should not be getting money. But I also gave her 2 contacts for her specifically where she can get money from when she does need it. So I think that's the kind of support and sort of, you know, that we're trying to do. And maybe Shaina can even share a little bit about sort of the system that we're trying to build so that it's a sustainable thing and we can do more entrepreneurs over time, because really 5,000 naira isn't a lot of money, but there is a cost to delivering that.
Yeah. So like Bunmi said, a lot of times it's just about knowing where to find information. So if we become that vehicle for you to find all the types of information you need to get your business going, then that relieves you of having to go through that stress and you just focus on building your business, right? Like he said, this lady wanted to have some money to start her business but didn't know where to go to find capital. The first thing she needs to know is that she actually doesn't need the money right now. But when she does, this is where she should go, right? So access to information is a major barrier for success in this market. So we're trying to make sure that everything that we do, we make it available to the entrepreneurs in terms of access to information. For the pathway that Bunmi is talking about, there's a journey that the entrepreneur goes through of testing something out, making sure that people actually want that thing, having people buy that thing, and then just getting more people to go and buy that thing. So the pathway we're creating is making sure that the idea that you have, that people actually are interested in it, right? That you're not just blindly starting a business, right? Test it out first. Once you've tested it out, then start building on that. So they go through the pathway of just building one at a time until they get to the point where now their product is in market and all they're doing is streamlining their processes to make their business a lot more efficient. So then they can stabilize and start creating jobs.
And part of what we're doing now is we're setting up something called the Africa Startup Accelerator.
Okay.
It's a building, a hub, whatever you want to call it, where the general population can come to, take classes.
I was about to ask that. How do you identify these businesses or potential entrepreneurs? Do you identify, or can the general public approach you?
And that's where we're trying to get to. We're currently even fundraising for that project because it's a very non-profit project at the start. But the idea would be that anybody in the general public can come in and take the classes, because the classes, like she said, the big gap is information, is knowledge.
Is this free? Are they going to get?
Well, so it's going to be maybe very, very, very cheap, like 2,005 or like 5,000 naira or something like that. It's not anything. And there are some free classes. We have actually done a couple of free classes already. Right now, the way we run it is distributed. Many different people give us free space, and then we kind of do it. But we have to have almost an institute where people can keep coming, taking a lot of these classes, instead of a developer wasting their money. I know a lot of people have wasted money and to build a website. Let them come and sit down for 5K, learn how to build their own website. So after that is when you can now start talking about the real support and like investment and mentorship and all of that. So that's what we're trying to sort of accomplish right now. The idea is to have this accelerator housed somewhere, probably on the island, because it's, I think the mainland is quite full of a lot of these things, while we continue to do what we call boot camps, which are like knowledge sessions, but that we do pretty much anywhere in Nigeria at this point. So that's the next step for us.
So how do you fund all of this? Because it's amazing what you're doing, helping people, but also it has to be sustainable. So how do you fund this?
Absolutely, good question. So there are many ways that we fund what we do. One of them is the classes are paid. So small stipend helps to keep the class itself sustainable. We give an honorarium to the trainer. It helps cover some of the costs. We host events, so pitch competitions, demo days, boot camps. Those are also paid for. We get sponsorship from different
Okay, so
companies and
sponsors,
government. And what we're starting to do now is venture partnership, where investors who are interested in some of the businesses coming through our academy can actually pay us to help build that out, that company out. So putting in skills, so bringing in talented entrepreneurs and matching them with the entrepreneur that they're interested in investing in to help build that business out.
Fantastic. So I know you're working on a project with Lagos State, Ready, Set, Work. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, absolutely.
So Ready Set Work is an initiative purely of the Lagos State Ministry of Education.
Okay.
It's the Office of the Special Advisor to the Governor on Education.
Okay.
The project is to prepare 4,000 final year students across Lagos State tertiary institutions for the workplace. So there are 2 tracks. The first track is employability, and the second track is entrepreneurship. In the employability track, the government has gone through great lengths, and a big kudos to the special advisor, Mr. Bankolemo. They've gone through great lengths to get the right set of people to train these young people on how to write a CV, on how to interview, how to do this, and then they've gotten them internship slots in many different companies in Nigeria, and there are a lot of private sector companies that are sort of collaborating with them. We're doing the entrepreneurship piece, which, like we talked about, takes them not just to being employable, but to becoming even employers themselves, and just yesterday we were saying to some of the young to-be entrepreneurs, go over to employability track and go and employ some of them in the business that you're about to build. Yeah, so it's a very great project that we're very proud of.
Unfortunately, we've run out of time, but before we go, someone may be watching who would like to make themselves over. So what tips and lessons can you share?
I guess I'll start.
Okay.
Yeah, I think first thing, understand what you know and understand what you don't know, because knowledge is number one. You have to go out and look for information. In my previous talks, I talked about brainwashing. It's really to help people unlearn some of the wrong things that they've done and look for additional information. And I'd say the second thing is really around mentorship and guidance. Those are the 2 key things I mentioned.
So I would say one key thing for me is seek feedback. You're not going to know everything about what you want to do. You're not going to know exactly where you want to go. But in everything that you're doing, look for people to tell you how well you're doing or give you advice on what direction you should take, because that will help you sort of crystallize the ideas around what it is or what path it is that you should be going on, where your strengths lie and where your weaknesses lie. So feedback is critical.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. You guys are doing a remarkable job. And we hope to hear more stories. Hopefully you come back again with some of your entrepreneurs who can probably share some of the good things they're doing. And I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Viewers, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you have a business idea and you don't know how to start, or you need support, mentorship, or funding, please contact Bunmi or Shaina. Their details are on the screen. There's so many opportunities and there's so many people willing to help. Until next week, stay blessed.